Well, I sure hope so. I don't know. I know it's politically tough to achieve it, but I think the average citizen out there is in favor of tenure reform because the average citizen doesn't have it himself. And for the most part, people are employed as long as they do a decent job. And I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to work for an institution where I knew the employer had to keep me on even if he didn't want me. I have enough self-esteem that I'd move on.
Yeah, I would hope that I would too, but certainly at our universities there are a few opponents on this issue. Let's move on to talking about the moral arguments behind economic responsibility. We were talking about Time magazine proclaiming that we as a nation had been forever changed and that we're no longer going to go back to credit card induced Gucci habits. But is this a momentary lapse similar to what we saw after 9/11 where every house had an American flag outside and people were intensely patriotic? Are we just so shocked to our core about America's vulnerability and this is a temporary situation? Or are we going to see people making long-term choices and habit changes to where they will stop spending and will start saving?
I think the answer as to most questions is yes and no. You'll see some of both. But people are shaken by what's going on right now. People have seen, in many cases, most cases actually, about half of their net worth has evaporated in the last year. So that memory doesn't fade quickly. So it definitely will change habits. But a big part of the answer rests in what the Federal Reserve does with our monetary policy from this point forward. If the Federal Reserve and our banking system continues to flood the economy with cheap money, that money has to go somewhere. And I think the speculative boom we've seen in housing, as well as the, as you might say, excessive consumer spending in many areas in our economy for the past 10, 15 years, are a result of a continual influx of cheap money into the system that has to go somewhere. It's just a natural consequence.
How much will Obama's stimulus plan, when considered collectively with all of the bills surrounding it, how much will it ultimately cost America by the time it's paid off?
Oh, golly, that's hard to say. I don't know that anybody knows the answer to that. And the stimulus plan continues to evolve. My guess is we haven't seen the last of requests for more, quote, stimulus spending. But when you consider the interest we're going to be paying on it, because this is all financed out of debt, we don't have a balanced budget, we're just adding to the deficit. It's going to be a horrendous bill in the trillions of dollars that future generations are going to have to pay for. And that means for them, either higher taxes or more inflation. It's absolutely unavoidable, one or both of those things.
One of the points you make here in this publication is that it is a myth that government programs can help lower unemployment by putting Americans to work. Now let's assume that the Obama stimulus plan, that his administration is successful in the short term. Will we see Americans once again wedded to this idea that government can solve our problems, that excessive government spending is the cure that we need to evil capitalism? Well,
again, if we get that lift in the economy, it won't be for the spending. It'll be because of the what they're doing with the monetary and credit policy. If Americans see any revival as stemming from the spending, then I fear for the future, because what that suggests is that they'll embrace more of it. But I have a feeling that there's a very sizable portion of the American public, I don't know if it's a majority, but a very sizable portion that is very skeptical of this and understands that government doesn't have anything to give anybody except what it first takes from somebody.
We've been seeing these Tea Party revolutions, and Denver activists are claiming that we had the largest gathering, or maybe second largest to Atlanta, I believe, right? 7,000 people coming out to the state capitol to say enough is enough, quit spending our money. What do you think the effect of these Tea Parties have been, and are we going to see more of them in the future?
I hope so, and I hope it shook the foundations of Washington, D.C. and our state officials as well. I think people are realizing that regardless, even if we see an increase in economic numbers over the coming months, it is wrong to take money from some people that they have put to productive uses in their own businesses and spend it where our president or our congressmen and women want to spend it themselves. It's fundamentally wrong, and we have to return to those first principles.
Were you at the Atlanta event?
I was not. Didn't
You were
make
not.
it.
Well, are you going to go next time?
I
That's the
hope
big
so.
question.
Yes,
That's
I
good.
would love to be there.
And you know, on the left, a lot of pundits have criticized this movement, saying that it's astroturf, that it's not really conservatives. Yeah. Conservatives don't protest, after all. We line up in our suits and accept handouts from Wall Street. So what do you have to say about that? The large organic grassroots movement we're seeing.
I think they're dead wrong. I think there is a strong and growing grassroots movement out there. It isn't yet always in the form of an organization. You have a rally and large numbers show up, but I think the numbers of people who are really fed up with Washington are far greater than those who have taken time to go to a Tea Party, although I strongly support them.
And just to sort of wrap up, I want to give you both a chance to offer your personal thoughts. Are you optimistic about America's recovery, or do you think we're beginning to see what is an inevitable downturn, long-term decline of America?
I'm very optimistic, and you might think there's little reason to be so at this time, but I think that the course that is being pursued right now by the politicians in Washington, D.C. is an illustration to ordinary people around the country of how out of hand the system is. And I think it is a wake-up call for people all around the country, and it's working. They're realizing how out of control the system is, how they have no influence on something so far away in Washington, D.C. And we say, we trumpet the principles of self-government and of democracy, but when you have something so far removed from ordinary people and so far away where you can't influence it, that's not self-government and it's not democracy. So one of the most encouraging trends I see right now is the resolutions that have been passed in state houses around the country calling for a reassertment of an understanding of the 10th Amendment, that the federal government is restricted to certain duties by the Constitution and may not go further than those specific duties spelled out in that document.
We've only got 1 minute left, and I wanted to give you one final chance to talk about whether you're optimistic and whether we as a country can be proud again, and what that will look like.
Oh, I'm very optimistic, as is Mason. I think we will turn this around. This crew in Washington today is not going to be the first group of people in the history of the world to figure out how to make bloated government work. So we're going to have some great teaching opportunities here in the not too distant future.
And I wanted to give you one last chance to plug your publication. You just put out a book in March. Real quickly, tell us about that.
That one is called Striking the Root, and this one that you have, Jessica, is called Great Myths of the Great Depression. It's a little monograph, but a very timely one, and people can order those from our website, fee.org, fee.org.
Great. We'll also have that information on the Independence Institute website as well. And I just want to wrap up by saying thank you both so much for being here today. This is Jessica Corry, and I am subbing in tonight for John Caldera, hopefully again soon in the future. Send John an email, john@i2i.org, and let him know just how well his guest hosted tonight. Also, if you want to learn more about the Independence Institute, check us out. We're at www.independenceinstitute.org. That's all for Independent Thinking. We'll see you next week.
You jab a jab, bamboozle, nuka, noozle, bippity bop, she-gall. You jab a jab, bamboozle, nuka, noozle, bippity bop, she-gall. I mean, you keep on talking, but you don't know where to turn it off.